Behavior. What is behavior? Behavior is defined as the focus on the individual behavior of a living organism's activity, public or private, which may be influenced by external or internal stimuli. In a simpler definition, the dead man's test. If a dead man can do it, it's not behavior. But if he can't do it, it is behavior. Well, of course, if you don't live in the universe of The Walking Dead. For example, not talking is not a behavior because a dead man can not talk. Reading, however, is a behavior, which brings us to the next portion. There are two types of behaviors, public and private. Public behaviors are just things people do that are observable to others, while private behaviors are behaviors occurring inside the skin, such as thinking. So you may hear teachers talking about how their class is so well behaved or misbehaved, but that statement would just be false due to a classroom not being a living organism, so they cannot behave. Only the individual can, and the same can be said about a group. Every behavior analyst has two different goals, to predict and to positively influence. For example, for prediction, say you're about to run. You think you might tear a muscle, so you stretch just before you run. That would be prediction. An example for influencing, a counselor may help somebody overcome an addiction and possibly influence them to change their behavior. You must know some basic variables. Functional variable, something that reliably and systematically influences behavior. The dependent variable is what you are measuring, and the independent variable is what you are manipulating. For example, in an experimental situation, a person may want to climb the rock wall, but it is too hard for them because of the type of holds that are on the wall. The dependent variable would be the climbing of the wall, while the independent variable would be the type of holds on the wall. And of course, with every experimental situation, you want to have a falsifiable hypothesis. The hypothesis I chose would be changing the type of holds, which will make it easier for the climber to climb the wall. The reason that this particular falsifiable hypothesis works is because the hypothesis could have failed because the hold may not have allowed for an easier climb. There are two types of measurements, self-reports and direct observations. Self-reports are typically biased and unreliable due to memory-related issues, and are not typically used by behavior analysts. But on the other hand, direct observations are typically used more. If a person is being interrogated by the police, they are using a self-report observation. But if the same crime is caught on a camera, it is a direct observation and is more reliable. Now we can move on to the dimensions of behavior, which are count, frequency, latency, and duration. Count is how often an event occurs. Frequency or rate is simply just count divided by time. Latency is how long it takes for a behavior to occur. And duration is how long a behavior lasts. Now that you know how to measure behavior and record it, it's time to see if your technique is working.